Let's go ahead and call to order. Melanie, if you could take roll, please.
Watson.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Hall. Maxwell.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Caldwell.
Yes.
Lawson.
Here.
McKnight.
Here.
Prophet.
Okay. And first up is the approval of the June 2nd meeting minutes for the Parks and Rec Department.
I make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Okay. Melanie, if you want to take a roll.
McKnight.
Here.
Lawson.
Yes.
Caldwell.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Maxwell.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes. Okay, and first on the agenda is the Lake Fayetteville bird blind presentation by Kelly Mulhollan.
Yes.
Hi, Kelly.
Can I just do it from here?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. My name is Kelly Mulhollan. I'm here to represent what we call the Blind Committee, and it's a loose committee, basically spontaneously has arisen with the purpose of creating a bird blind on Lake Fayetteville. And the thing we all have in common is that we're all bird enthusiasts, and we're all members of the also of the Northwest Arkansas, the Audubon Society. So tonight we would like we have a name for this thing, and it's named in honor of my father, Page Mulhollan, and it would be called the Page Mulhollan Waterfowl Blind. And the reason for my father's inclusion has to do with he was a longtime director of the Botanical Garden, and then he later on was the chairman of the board, and he passed away a couple of years ago. But he was a very avid bird watcher throughout his life, and it was his intention to make bird watching the Botanical Garden has some component of bird watching in it, and so this is kind of a fulfillment of that dream, hopefully. Bird watching has become a very, very popular hobby all through the country, and Lake Fayetteville happens to be a real hot spot in Northwest Arkansas for bird watching, and it's well documented as well. We have records that go back to 1950 because of Professor Doug James, and it's also been for 40 years. It's been a part of the Christmas count every year for census, and then in more recent years we have Dave Chapman, who has been keeping meticulous records on the birds. He lives on the lake. He's part of our committee. He's back here somewhere. And actually, David has actually written a very, very wonderful documentation of the birds on Lake Fayetteville. Very thorough. So it's a really important resource here in Fayetteville. And one of the star attractions of the birds on Lake Fayetteville are the winter waterfowl. And that's kind of where the bird blind comes into play. Waterfowl happen to be very skittish, very wary of humans, and very hard to observe closely. And usually we need a telescope to get a good look. And so it just so happens that the waterfowl love to convene in this cove right here, which is adjacent to the Botanical Garden. And so there's a lot of good things about the location here. One thing is it's on the south side of the lake. So when you're looking if you're observing birds, the sun's going to be behind you, which is real important when you're working with binoculars and telescopes. And also, it happens to be a place where birds seem to be, they prefer to feed in this particular cove in bad weather. And that's usually when bird watching is best, in bad weather. And then the other obvious thing is that its proximity with the Botanical Garden. It's a short walk over to this. So there's, of course, a dirt trail that goes around the cove, and the proposed spot for the bird blind is only 20-something feet from the dirt trail. So it wouldn't be a big job to get a trail through the woods over there. It doesn't require cutting down any trees, just a little bit of bramble, mostly invasive. And the Botanical Garden, as I'm sure you are aware, does a lot of educational program for young people, almost on a daily basis during the school year. And they bus kids in, and it is their intention to access and use this asset to be able to take the kids out there and actually have a look which would be great. And that would also be something that my father would be real pleased to hear. And by the way, my mother is still very, very active with the Botanical Garden as a volunteer. Kind of runs the butterfly house. And we have the location. We also have a design, thanks to Michael Cochran, who's also a committee member. And I'm going to have Michael speak to you after I'm done and answer questions about the construction plans that we have. We also have a funding plan, which is pretty good. Now, our estimates for how much it's going to cost are a little vague, but they're starting to get a little less vague all the time. But at the moment, we know that we have around $5,000 to $6,000 promised for this project. We think we can complete it within that amount of money. If we need a couple extra $1,000, I think we can muster it. I'm not too worried about it. So that's not too big a problem. Now, we did have a preliminary meeting with the parks folks and with Allison, and maybe there would be it might be appropriate for the city to take responsibility for the short path, the little spur path that would go from the dirt trail to the blind itself. That would be fine. We would like that. But that hasn't been decided. We also have a maintenance plan. We thought about that, the long-term need for this to be looked over. We were very fortunate. The Northwest Arkansas Audubon Society is willing to handle our finances, so our money will run through for the construction. Also, they are willing to take responsibility for long-term maintenance, so to clean it up when it needs cleaning up. Also, there's twice a year there's a Lake Fayetteville cleanup, which would also be very helpful to take care of that. So, aside what I've already said, we're happy to take questions on this. But if you have specific bird questions, it's a gold mine to have David Chapman in the room, because he can elaborate on why this is such a significant spot and what we might actually see there, if you're interested. And also, I'm going to have Michael talk about the design a little bit, and he can answer questions about construction details. We plan on using volunteer labor, but we also want to hire a foreman to direct the job. So it'll be a combination of paid work and volunteer work. And I understand that, so we're asking for two things today, both the permission to build this on city property, and secondly, the permission to name it the Page Mulhollan Waterfowl. I have trouble saying that. Page Mulhollan Waterfowl Owl Blind. So, I think that's what I have to say.
I have a question that's kind of directed towards Connie as well. Now, has the Botanical Garden final borders been approved?
No, they need one more public meeting through our Parks Board.
Okay.
And then it will go with the lease. It's supposed to be ready this coming August.
Okay. And on the proposal, this is not part of the Botanical Gardens?
No.
Okay.
It's within the park.
Okay.
To be used by both entities.
Right, and I just don't want to jump the gun as far as this goes. Should we wait for that lease to be done before we approve, since this area is in question as far as the Botanical Garden?
You could add a little stipulation on it pending approval of the
Okay.
UGSO master plan.
Okay, but it looks like this is going to be that area that's going to be, that they don't want. And have you talked with the Botanical Gardens about the field trips and such that you were talking about, and they're all for it? So.
Walter Others has been very much involved in this whole process.
Okay.
In fact, he called me about 3 weeks ago and said that this is now going to be, at first we thought that we were negotiating with the Botanical Garden.
Right.
And he called me and told me, as of now, he still wants to go ahead, but as of now, we will be negotiating with the city.
Okay.
And yeah, they do intend on, they're very excited about the whole thing.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not crossing our wires, our lines and everything here, so, okay.
Yeah, can I just say a few words?
Sure.
I think this is, Kelly said just about everything.
Sorry, what's your
I'm
name?
David Chapman.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I know for sure that the Botanical Garden already takes field trips out with Joni, who's a local expert, and I think this will be wonderful for them, because when you're doing this in cold weather, you can get away from the wind. And the other good thing about it is, from a bird watching point of view, is that people, they don't all have telescopes. Maybe they have binoculars, and so if you don't have a telescope, it's kind of hard to see birds that are right out in the middle of the lake. But I don't think this is really just about bird watching. It's also about education. But I think it's going to be unique in Northwest Arkansas. I can't think of any other similar blind. And so I think it's going to reflect very positively in general image of the Parks Department, that they can provide a facility like this, which everybody will be able to use. If you don't know anything more about birds at Lake Fayetteville, I can give anyone a copy of this, but I have to print off a few more. I've only got one.
I'll take one.
Yeah, I like it.
So is this suspended above the ground, or is it it's not a slab? It is actually suspended into
Not a
boardwalk.
slab. That would be, maybe we ought to move to, any more questions specifically for me before we move on to Michael?
Sure. I mean, you've mentioned the botanical gardens, but you also talk about the environmental center, and the proximity to the environmental center doesn't really include them much in their programming. And I guess, I mean, from that standpoint, I'd like to see it be put in a position so that both entities would be able to utilize it a little more readily.
Yeah.
Now, in saying that, I talked to Ani, and she said, really, I'm pretty limited on who would be able to use it from that standpoint. Really, it would be our advanced kids. That the rest of them are pretty locked down with their schedule. There was concern also with, how their area, their boat dock and some of that gets really trashed. If they've got people fishing from their piers and other aspects of it. So there's, I think, a significant concern with what other activities would be going on in that same area outside of the bird watching, and how it's going to be maintained as well from that standpoint.
I think you might, could you go back to the image? Yeah. If you see, it's actually not very accessible from the Science Center, of course. It'd be difficult for them to get over there with their students, except by driving around the whole area.
Well, they'd probably take a boat over to it. Don't they still use the boat with the Science Center?
The older classes do, I believe.
Yeah. It's available for the general public, so it's available for them.
Right.
I wish I could solve all those problems in one graceful sweep, but I don't know how to do that, except to say that we are willing to take care of the maintenance, and we are, take responsibility for that particular issue. And we're all fans of the Science Center as well, and support their efforts as well.
And I believe
you have a lot of familiarity with this. What would you want to say?
Well, only the location of this is actually immediately opposite the environmental center deck, boarding deck, where people watch birds quite regularly if you go down there. But the thing is, the key to this is it's looking north.
Right.
And from a bird watcher's point of view, you look south for most of the year. You've got the sun in your face, so it's not an actual ideal spot. So we deliberated very carefully on the siting of this, and we think the place that we picked is a good spot. And of course, as it says, you couldn't walk there from the environmental centre, but there's absolutely nothing. But if they want to get involved in that sort of thing, they can drive around there and take their students in the same way that anybody else can.
You think you would?
Is that the question that you were asking?
Well, I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, it appears that and I understand, connecting it to the BGSO, but at the same time, if it was put in a position where it was more accessible by both parties, by both educational aspects.
When we first proposed this project, we did consider some sites that were on, if you like, the school's leasehold, but actually they rejected it. They didn't want it there. So, and since this is going to be the Page Mulhollan blind, and since this site we picked is just about the most perfect site I can think of. So I think we've got the right place to do this, and I hope they'll be able to be involved in it in some way.
My hope would be maybe this will be so successful, we'll need another one, and then maybe we can build one make certain that we have them.
Well, I've
spaced out.
always wished that deck the environmental centre had, that somebody would put a roof on it, because I've stood there in the howling wind and the rain coming down. I mean, it would be nice to do that. So actually, the environmental centre does have a good lookout onto the lake, and of course, they do their fishing and all their other things, but I'm not sure they actually do any bird watching type of activities, but.
Yeah, I've observed both groups myself and found it a little frustrating, and it seems that they don't communicate much about what they're overlapping purpose. They both are educating, but they don't coordinate. And I think they would both benefit by coordinating. Of course, I'm not in charge, so I can't make that happen, but this is an opportunity for them to share something.
One other point related to that, I'm prepared to say that the Audubon Society will definitely keep that shoreline free of trash. The Watershed Partnership actually hardly ever gets around there because it's too much, and they deal basically with stuff coming in from Clear Creek.
Right.
But this sector that we're considering, I imagine that the Audubon Society will arrange a group of volunteers once a year perhaps to do a trash removal, because Clear Creek does actually follow that southern boundary of the lake, and it's true that trash does build up. It's hard to get at without a canoe, but I think that side of the problem is going to be solved.
Is there any security for this structure?
No, it's open. It
Okay.
does not have a door.
Okay.
That's a good question. So that's another problem that it would not be easy to solve, but there is no door on the design.
If this becomes real popular, which I assume it will, who would be in charge of scheduling if it comes down to that? Somebody decides they want to get married there. I assume that would go through Parks?
That would go through
If it
Parks,
became-
and we probably would not have a reservation for
Yeah.
any reservations. First come, first served,
Okay.
unless there's a big educational class coming or something.
And you, obviously, when I think of this, I think of winter use. Is there, what are your thoughts on people using portable heaters and so forth? Because I know if you're sitting for long times, it's
I would
sometimes
not think
much.
that would be, I would not want that.
There's no power there.
There's no electricity.
Well, I was talking more of the portable,
Yeah.
or the
I've
old
been
Coleman
long
kerosene
johns.
ones. Yeah, that's a whole lot easier.
I think signage could help out a whole lot as far as,
No flame.
what the expectations are for the facility, and, I mean, I'm sure we'll have, some type of expectations listed on the board or something.
Well, thank you. I'm
to
glad
prevent
you
that.
mentioned that, because that's something I did want to mention. When you see the design in a moment, you'll see that there is a board that faces toward the inside of the building. We plan on making a very attractive, a key to some of the more familiar species of waterfowl that someone might see there.
Nice.
And, of course, and the only signage that we're talking about, by the way, would be just a plaque that simply said, Page Mulhollan Waterfowl Blind. That's all we're proposing.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. There's more than one reason why the birds are using that spot. And from what I know about nature, they're partly using it because there's no people there. And it seems to me like this is going to draw people to that spot every day of the year. And if they're bird watchers, that's not a problem. But if they're people that are playing their iPod and, maybe they're jogging the trail and they're going to stop and do 25 push-ups or something like that, it seems to me like it might be a disturbance and you're not going to see as much wildlife there. So have y'all being the bird experts, in my opinion, have y'all thought about that?
Oh, absolutely. We do, there is that both sides of the coin you have to consider. We have been very involved in that. And part of it is in design. There's subtle things in making a good bird blind that can make it successful in that way. First of all, in addition to the structure itself, we would probably want to put little wings on both sides made out of some natural material such as bamboo or something lightweight, just not live bamboo, but to give it more cover. The whole idea, and not only that, but the path that goes from the little spur path, the 25-foot path, it needs to have a gentle curvature to it. And all these, it sounds a little silly, but it's not, it's actually very important that you kind of sneak up on the building. And that you have plenty of cover on both sides so the ducks can't see. And that's the best we can do. And of course, the building itself would be unobtrusive, and from the water's perspective, it would not be noticeable. So all of us are real concerned about development on Lake Fayetteville, extremely concerned about that. And this is a way to have an orderly way of benefiting from the bird life there without disturbing the birds any more than necessary.
What is the capacity for that room?
For that
How many
room?
people can actually sit and watch?
Probably 8 if you're sitting around on the benches, 6 to 8.
And I assume there's going to be signs, you know, quiet please, maximum capacity, 8
I suppose
occupants,
that
those
would
type of
help.
things.
Which is, you have a good point. I understand that, but we also, you know, people become connected with nature by, you know, by engaging in nature. And I think in this case, this is a good compromise between the two.
Well, saying that this structure's built for 6 to 8 and maybe 10 or 12 kids, saying that it's kids, but the mass that comes into BGSO is hundreds at a time. How is this going to be effective in that setting?
You know,
I think they'll just have to minimize their groups, I would imagine.
Right.
You can't take 100 kids out there, you have to group groups of 10 or groups of 12 at a time.
right.
They have day camps out there too as well. That's a very limited amount of kids that do different things in high intensity. So, I mean, I think it's doable.
Yeah.
Judy Smith, who's the educational coordinator at the Botanical Garden, is fully aware of everything we're up to, and is very much enthusiastic about this happening.
I think it's going to be a huge asset myself.
And just to be clear, there's a plan for this to be maintained in the future. So this is an ongoing concern that the cost of the maintenance is going to be...
With the Northwest Arkansas Audubon Society,
Okay.
yes. That has already been approved in their meetings, in their minutes.
Is there, I don't know, is there something written to that effect?
No, we could make that available.
Okay.
Joe Neal has been our primary, he's not here tonight, but he's been, and I'm sure you all know who Joe Neal is, and Joe has been our connection with the board there, and has got all these things approved. He said he had the commitment on that, but it should be in writing.
Right.
Do that. That's a good idea.
How far away from the water is this going to go?
It's right on the edge of the water. It'd just be a matter of a couple feet from the water. You want to describe the structure a little bit? Maybe that would, you probably have some more questions once you hear this a little more about the structure.
So you really couldn't tell from the map at the scale, but the water, this particular point on the lake, there's a little piece that bumps out. So it's really also an ideal position to see sort of a panoramic view of the lake. So this is the plan and the floor plan, and the idea of the shape is to give you that opportunity to see around in kind of a panoramic way. So you would approach the thing from this direction. We're intending to include a ramp that would eventually be handicapped accessible. Right now the trail isn't, but we want to design the thing so in the future that's a possibility. This is the edge of the overhanging roof, so it sticks out a couple of feet. And as Kelly said, the water would be just right out here. As soon as we go out there and stake it out and kind of clarify things, we'll get a clearer site plan. But so these drawings are very preliminary. As Kelly mentioned, there need to be a screen on either side just to keep as you approach, and if anybody gathers back here, that'll help to screen those people. There's a display area here. That's just a simple kind of barrier there that will have information on it. It also acts, you don't want the birds to see through the building and see movement inside there, so it helps to screen people inside here moving around. Okay, so it's a pole structure, so basic 6-inch poles and benches around this side. I included an area here that would be possible to pull a wheelchair up to. It's a little tight around here, but it's still doable. But they could pull in here and have a view out that way.
And the windows are going to be open, right? There's not going to be any glass or...
Well,
Is there?
let's go to the next slide. The actual idea of the windows, ideally, you'd be able to shut them.
Mhm.
So it has to have a hinge, simple hinge, some way to keep it up and move it up and down. To screen, David can tell you more about that, but that's typical in a bird blind. So here you see the pole structures. It's a simple gable roof that sort of wraps around the building, kind of a similar shape as the building. We're thinking of like a composite, plastic Trex type flooring material, something pretty sturdy, of course. Everything down here would be pressure treated, and let's see what else. To say, you can see the benches that wrap around. There's a shelf. You want to be able to put your elbow on for the binoculars and that sort of thing. And going down a couple of feet for the foundation. Okay.
You think the metal roof will bother the birds any when it's raining and stuff? Is it stinging?
I don't know, that the sound itself, is a little more noisy than some roofs. That might be a reason to back it up with a solid surface underneath it. You could put a metal roof directly down on plywood, for instance. And it really changes the sound quality.
Yeah.
That's probably, Connie, I think you have a good point there. If it was just a suspended on purlins, it would be a relatively noisy contraption.
I grew up in a pole barn.
Yeah. So,
You wouldn't want to be inside there very long.
I knew that, but a lot of people didn't.
I know.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think it would be smart to back it up with plywood directly underneath the steel, which would be just add a little bit to the expense, but it would sure change the sound quality.
Do one of those faux slates. It's kind of a composite, plastic composite faux slate. Well, that's out at Mount Sequoia.
I would think you'd want something other than metal. I think you'd want, I know the longevity, but it's a small roof anyway. I think you'd want something that's going to be quiet when rain hits it.
Well, that's a point well taken. I think we need to go back to the drawing board on that just a little bit, because we hadn't talked about it.
I think what you're going to find is that once the birds get used to it,
It won't matter.
it won't matter. The first time rain gets there and rain falls on it, they'll spook. After a while, they'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Because it'll be a constant thing. I don't see that,
Becomes a feature of the landscape.
yeah.
But if
it's
you
a
don't,
feature of the landscape.
but if we can make a quieter roof for a couple of, $300 or $400 extra, I think it'd be worth the money.
Can look at that. Just looking at the exterior, the windows are different heights to allow for people of different heights. There's kids, that sort of thing. And we're thinking about maybe a board and batten, something heavy like over an inch thick. Just the concerns about maintenance and vandalism and that sort of thing. We want it to be pretty stout. So thinking about cedar, maybe a native red eastern cedar board and batten siding. And that's about it. Thank you. Questions?
I think it's a wonderful idea.
I just have one question. What happens if it doesn't work? So
If it doesn't work.
if this doesn't work,
I get
are-
fired.
is Parks- where does Parks stand on removing the structure and it not existing?
We would document if we had problems, like we do everything else. If there would be a continuous problem of unwanted activity in the little bird blind, then we would have to take a means to, try to get some more security or doing something else that would.
If it's decided that this is just a no-go, this isn't like we're not paying for this structure, and someone has paid for it. It's got somebody's name on it. It's a sentimental value to someone. So I don't want there to be a rift because we're telling you we got to remove the structure from the property over it's just not working. Have we thought about that? Is that?
We haven't gone that far. I'm happy to talk about that, but I agree. It would unfold as it unfolds. I'm sure we would react accordingly. I'm sure we would agree with you if it was not working, that it should be removed.
Sure.
Hopefully we'll have enough users of the facility that it will chase away the unwanted activity. It'll have so much.
Yeah,
Right.
This sounds like pretty much any other project. From the bike rally thing over there by the roller skateboard park and all that. There's always something where you're gonna, if you have enough involvement, we're gonna try it and see if we can't get enough user groups, because it's all about getting people out there and things, and we usually deal with the issues as they come. But it's a good point. If it does turn into kind of something, we'll address that and move on and do with everything accordingly. That's the way the park usually handles all those situations.
Right. We're used to it.
Yeah.
What's our requirement for building in the wetland? In that area? He's got concrete piers and...
Yeah, there's a square footage, 150 square feet that's allowed in our streamside zone. So this will be under that.
It's closer to 100.
We'll have to get a building permit.
So we won't have
Can we
to
sell
deal
those?
with
For a
the
birdhouse.
core. Won't have to deal with the core or anything within the...
It's not a delineated wetland that I'm aware of.
This particular spot that we've selected actually doesn't flood. I've walked out there many, many times, and that's why we picked it actually out. And so it's actually above the flood zone, even when we've had heavy. But all along the east side of the botanical property, that is boggy, which is one of the reasons why we don't want to put it there.
Is there any other questions or comments?
I make a motion to accept the Lake Fayetteville bird blind, Mulhollan bird blind,
With the
with the stipulation that
botanical garden is approved.
the botanical garden lease and everything's approved for that part.
And we have the facility naming policy too.
Right.
Also, the stipulation of the Audubon Society continuing to fund the maintenance of it through the years,
In writing is what...
in writing.
That's a good idea.
I might just make one suggestion that you have two votes. One is to allow the building to go up, and the other one is the park naming, so we can proceed with that.
Okay.
Park naming, you have to wait 1 month in order to allow time for public input. And then any facilities that we name then have to go to our city council. That way they could go on and start on the building and,
Okay.
Yes.
So then
Building first.
so I'll make a motion that we accept the building project.
I'll second it.
Contingent that the VGSO land leases.
and
The Audubon Society funding.
Okay, you can take a roll.
Who's on the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
Okay.
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Priest,
Yes.
Maxwell,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Second motion is to start the naming process for the Page Mulhollan bird blind. I've been listening to you. Waterfowl bird blind at Lake Fayetteville. Ooh, that is hard to say.
Is it waterfowl?
Waterfowl
blind or
blind.
just waterfowl blind?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, waterfowl blind. Waterfowl
Fowl blind. Waterfowl blind.
That's easier.
Easier.
Second.
There you go. Take a roll, please.
I bet it gets called the Mulholland Birdhouse.
McKnight,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Maxwell,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Priest,
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
So it will go on at the table until next month, and go on the agenda, and then it proceeds to city council.
Yes.
That's good.
We're looking at November.
Now, the project is contingent on it passing, on the name passing, right?
No.
No.
I'm missing.
Project's gonna go forward.
The project's going to go forward.
No, that's just our desire.
Okay.
Yeah, the naming of it, yes.
Yeah, I didn't ever mention that our intention is to begin construction in November, assuming that everything is squared away.
All right.
Neat project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your consideration.
All right, and next up is Marion Orton Recycling Center sculpture, and we have a presentation from Brian Pugh.
Actually, I'm gonna cover it. I assume I would cover it. It's just an informational item for you guys. Solid Waste Recycling went through an RFP process to purchase some art to go with the new recycling center that's there at North Street and the trail. So this is, I don't know how to make this thing go. Well, where Skull Creek Trail crosses North Street, the new recycling center was built there. There will be an art sculpture just on the south side of the recycling center. And this is the artwork that they selected. It's a piece that reflects recycling and nature and connects to the site. So the tree is actually going to be made of cans, like pieces of cans, so it'll look like bark. Yep, so it'll be a metal sculpture, and it has the detail that's sitting there.
Bless you.
So they just wanted to let you guys know that was coming through, since it is going to be next to the trail. It's actually part of the recycling center, but wanted you to be aware that was going on.
So we'll have our own Roxy Payne, is that what it is? That's who did the one in Christopher? Neat.
Any questions?
Entertain a motion?
That's
Well,
something.
This is
Some
just,
information on-
it's just information, it's not.
No motions necessary.
Which part of it's gonna turn?
You want to move
There's a bearing,
The top, yes.
but this just, is it gonna be on a motor, or is it just gonna go?
Wind driven.
Wind.
With the wind.
Might squeak like an old windmill, you never know.
All right, thank you, Allison. Next up, Arkansas Parks and Tourism Outdoor Grant Application. Allison.
All right. We are going to be applying for a 50/50 matching grant this year from Arkansas Parks and Tourism. It's a grant that we've applied for many times in the past. It's funded lots of our parks and park improvements, playgrounds and pavilions, even acquisitions, I think. And we had some public meetings last week and the week before to gather public input on what recreation priorities are for the city. We compiled that and have a short list, well, it's not that short, but we have a list of requests. To apply for the grant, we do have to have the funding in place, and like I said, it's 50/50 matching, so we actually front all the money, it's reimbursable, so we need to have it budgeted, and then we apply for reimbursement at the end of the project. We had lots of conversations about splash pads and gully park acquisition, regional park development, trails, bicycling opportunities, We had requests for indoor gyms, indoor pools, concerts, and amphitheaters. So there's a wide variety, and so typically what we do is we take all these requests, bring it back to staff, look at our budget, and see what we think is a good match for the project. So what we are recommending is to apply it towards the development of the regional park, since we have that, the ball rolling on that, and we have lots of future phases that we need funding for, even items within phase one that we need funding for. So we know that we have that money budgeted. We can prove that, you know, we're good for that and can front the money and apply for reimbursement later. So, and specifically in the regional park, we will identify one element, and that will likely be the larger pavilion that has a catering kitchen attached to it, and it'll be something that'll be rentable and accessible to the public.
How much is the grant for?
A maximum of $250,000. Yeah. So it'd be a $500,000 project. Yeah.
When would the grant be received if we received it?
They typically award them in early March, so we wouldn't know.
So it's just be for like next year then?
Mm-hmm.
The National Park Service approves them, or it goes from Arkansas Parks and Tourism, then the governor approves them, that it's all under the umbrella of the National Park Service funding.
Has the money already been budgeted on our side for?
Mhm, we do have money budgeted for regional park development, yeah.
And, you know, one of the reasons the Billy Park was a big one that was on the list, but for us to go make a presentation and they come back and say, all right, tell us how many acres of parks Fayetteville has, and, you know, you give the figure of almost 4,200 acres. You know, we don't think it's a good political move for us to get new parkland.
We're not gonna get the funding through the federal grant for this grant for 11 acres when we got 4,000.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we need to develop that regional park.
But additional money going towards the development of the regional park makes much more sense in order to get the additional fields that we need for that park to make it a economic impact for our community.
So the specific project that we would use is this large pavilion?
Large pavilion.
Large?
Large. Did I say log? Did you say log?
Said large.
Oh, I thought you said log. I thought you thought I said log.
Can we make it a log pavilion?
It could be. I mean,
Robert
put some
Rudden.
wood on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come up with good ideas in here.
At the Great Lawn.
How much have we budgeted for that large pavilion?
It is right around 500,000. I think it's 495, but I have the estimate with me.
But we can put more money towards it than they do.
Okay.
If
Correct.
need be. We have, it has to be 50/50.
So if we get the funding, so that would give us a surplus of $250K, what would that be then used for?
Probably surplus in cost. What we've heard from Springdale, Rogers, and Bentonville, who have had some big capital projects going on, I mean, their projects are running way over. You know, the low cost of contracts are not there anymore. I mean, I heard the other day up 29 to 35% over what their estimated budget was. And even on their bond project, if you all read the paper Sunday, what happened to Rogers on their soccer field. So, we're going to need all our dimes and nickels.
So we're budgeted for 500, but expected to be 8.5 by the time it's done.
I can't really answer that.
But that's what you're saying, is that...
The costs have been coming in higher. And then we just work with Arkansas Parks and Tourism if we want to eat up the extra cost or not.
And
what I was
when the
saying-
grant comes in, it'll go towards other projects in the regional
The
park.
grant will only go towards the pavilion.
Right.
Right, but the money that...
Dollars.
That was for the pavilion, originally for the pavilion would probably help with the shortfall that is kind of expected now in the building boom.
Okay.
So do we have the funding for the 4th ball field? No.
Or the third, yes.
Nor the 3rd.
So what avenues do we have at our discretion to be able to get some funding? Who do we go to for a bond issuance for that?
that goes to city council.
So
Okay.
we, as a Parks Board, need to make a recommendation that we ask for a bond
If that's
in
your
order
desire.
to get
If the
the
regional
field
law.
now that we're gonna have
Or
groundbreaking
electric.
instead of coming back.
I think we need to have some sort of some input of what additional fields mean to us from an impact of a HMR perspective over the course of the next several years. So I think that's something that we need to add to our next agenda to say, look, what does, in financial terms and analytically driven, what does it mean to have a third ball field and a fourth ball field now over the next 5 to 10 years?
We can get that. On the agenda.
So Allison, do we just need an approval to go after this? Yeah, Steve?
I have a question, if I may add. 500,000 is a good amount of money. Do we want to spend that on a pavilion, whereas recreation opportunities could be spent with that money to enhance the regional park approach initially? I mean, a pavilion would be nice, a big pavilion, but it seems like there would be opportunity for some other recreational activities, like hiking or walking or mountain biking or something to that effect, that versus a $500,000 pavilion. I know, for instance, you can get a lot of trail built for $500,000. So, and maybe a jump track or a bike park or something of that nature. Just a question.
And then they could give a track of money from that.
There are some other avenues, other grants that would probably be a better fit for those types of facilities.
The highway department.
Yeah, see,
And looking at the regional park, we don't have,
I don't think it's
any
one or the other.
facilities.
It's just for this particular grant, they have to come up with
And
a
we have
project.
trails up there
And
now,
the
we don't have
pavilion
facilities.
seemed like the topic that you wanted. That seems like a big pavilion, 500,000, maybe not, I don't know how much they cost.
It's not.
It's
It's
not,
amazing what they cost.
It's gonna be similar in size to the large pavilion at Veterans Park.
Wow, that's it?
The other thing is when we apply for it, we have to have drawings and everything set, ready to go. And that's one reason why they've always liked Fayetteville. We have plans that are ready to go. And they know exactly what they're getting, and we've always accomplished, we've always done our grants.
Of the projects that were brought up in the meeting sessions, does this one give us the highest likelihood, in your opinion, of getting funded? Because really, that's the big question, because
Right.
either we win this funding or it goes to some other community.
Right.
Does this give us the highest likelihood, in your opinion?
We feel like
The
it
way
does,
that, in the
yeah.
language of the grant?
Yep.
Just of the versatility of the pavilion. I mean, it can be rented out, we can make a little bit of income from it to help run the park, but it can also be used for family reunions, weddings, whatever. Even when we host big regional sport tournaments, they can utilize that as kind of the greeting place where they come in, they get their packets, coaches meeting area.
That's
So
what we're
people
trying to
on and
do too,
on.
I think, is try to get to where we can host more regional tournaments for soccer as well, because we're losing out to other communities, we don't have the fields and the facilities, and that's the idea. And that would tie in well with, like you said, the main hub for those tournaments and concessions.
Steve, there was public input, and, I mean, the trails and Gully Park and a bunch of other stuff was brought up, but the regional park was where the public has said that they would like to see the funds.
No, I agree, I totally agree.
So-
I've been out of construction for years, I just forgot how much it costs to build something like that, it's crazy.
I think the key thing is what Allison said was, what can we do to get the money?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I know there's
we have a
many
huge
other
shopping
options
list.
to get money to, and we realize that as a community, so.
If you look at our weekly list of events going on in parks, it's amazing. I mean, we don't have enough pavilion space. You know, people are waiting to get in or having to change pavilions. I mean, it's a high need.
Well, some days those things are used 3 and 4 times during the day. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
An hour, on the hour, everybody changes out. Leave your balloons up, we can use them.
Do we need to vote on this to approve?
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Second.
Roll.
Just a
Maxwell,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes.
McKnight,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
I might just add, this will also have to go before city council as a resolution, and that is part of the Arkansas Parks and Tourism grant application. We have to have a resolution by city council stating that we have the money to do it, and that our parks board considered all needs. So, that's the next step. And then August the 30th or something?
I think it's, yeah,
Somewhere.
August, second meeting.
At the end.
But, I mean, when the grant's due,
Oh, the grant's due in the end of August, yeah.
end of August.
Okay, next up is Trail Art Master Plan. Allison, you're up again.
Okie dokie, back probably 9 or so months ago, it seemed like we were getting a lot of requests for art to be placed on the trail. And so we would kind of see those in onesie, twosie type presentations, and projects would come forward. We would approve them, the board would approve them, and then, nothing happened. And with that approval, we were approving a particular site. And so we started to have concerns that we were holding these, particular sites for, how long do we hold them for someone if they're not going to be coming forward with the project? So we worked with a local design group here who showed a lot of interest in wanting to promote public art, and they put together a master plan document for us, and it outlines a process and gives deadlines and dates and what is to be expected when projects are submitted, and what that looks like as far as approvals and expectations for installation and maintenance and funding. So it's not too much unlike what's already happening with the Arts Council, because they're part of this. If projects are valued at $5,000 or more, they have to go through the Arts Council, and that's incorporated into this master plan. What this does, it gives us a framework for accepting proposals, bringing them to you guys for approval, approving the site, and making sure that these proposals have funding behind them, so that when they come to us, we know that they're going to be funded, and they have a particular, I think it's 90 days from approval, either from you guys or from city council, to actually install the sculpture or whatever it is, so that we're not just holding on or, saving a space for someone forever. So that's what this is about. And what the group did, we worked with Modus Studios, and they tried to put in one document general information about which trails are appropriate for public art, because we have some that probably really aren't. But these outline more of the transportation trails, and then some of our other loop trails as well in the more popular parks. And then it outlines when we'll accept proposals. We'll do that on a quarterly basis, and it gives, like I said, a time frame for expectations of approval through the process. And it's also a resource, I guess, for them to look into potential sponsors and funding. So just sort of an all-in-one document for an artist who is interested in giving us something for the trail system.
Is this something that was kind of reviewed, or was the city attorney involved in this, or is this just, no?
No.
Does it feel like it's necessary or no, or?
This went through the Active Transportation Committee.
Okay.
We, as staff, feel like it's a good thing to do, because
Yeah.
we have saved stops before.
It's more just establishing a more defined process for that.
Is it necessary to go through city council?
It is, if,
It's required.
if it's valued at over 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me.
And like Connor said, it did go through the Active Transportation Committee last week.
And that's what you're,
Did you say Modus picked they determined the locations of, did you?
No, they helped us just draft the plan and the process, and help us through that process.
Who created this master plan?
Modus.
Who created this map?
Oh, this master plan. Oh, no, that's Matt Mahalovich. This is the city master plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there aren't,
I mean, what type of projects are we talking about?
Well, for instance, like the Hoover sculpture that's located just south of Center Street. We don't know what types of projects. People just come forward. There was one several months ago by Mr. Kaminsky that came in and requested to build the sculpture and put it in the kind of a loop at the end of Prospect Street. Started a Kickstarter campaign. And we've had other proposals too, but they don't always happen. And so we just don't want to be saving spots along the trail for people if the project isn't going to happen. We need to have some sort of structure and timeline.
And I think getting the process out there and people knowing that we do have a trail art project, it will hopefully encourage and get some more pieces out there.
Well, there's 3 filters to get this submitted. I mean,
It is.
or to get it approved.
And I'm imagining that this, something similar to that at the Mary Norton Recycling Center. That's the kind of deals we're talking about, similar to, it could look similar to
Could be.
something like that.
Well, I mean, Kaminsky came to us with, did he pull his back out, or?
We don't know.
I thought I saw something in an email saying that he decided to move it somewhere else, or, I mean, I could be wrong about that.
I don't recall.
He did one at the Peace Wetlands area.
Okay.
Oh,
It's not quite completed.
Right, but he came forward with another one at the end where Skull Creek and Frisco join.
Right.
And that hasn't came through yet.
Okay. Okay. Well, and I looked over it, I thought it was very thorough. I think it's a very detailed outline. I don't, from a perspective from someone wanting to see something happen there, I think it's very good. Now, from an artist perspective going, yeah, they want me to do a whole lot of hoops, jump in to give them a piece of art that I want to give them. But at the same time, I guess there's been issues with saying, okay, here's property, we want you to put it up, and then nothing happening, so, I think this
if nothing else,
good balance.
Clearly defined.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't know the rules. They're the rules.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, if you're serious about wanting to do an art project, you do jump through the hoops, and, that's, I wouldn't want to say it's weeding people out, but, it shows that you're serious about doing it.
Who's responsible for maintaining the grounds of the projects?
The grounds around it, we do.
Who else? Park maintenance.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Did anybody see anything that, stood out that they thought was?
Looks very thorough to me.
That's what I thought.
I didn't see anything.
I move that we accept the policy they've put out here.
Is park staff happy with, and think it's?
Mhm.
Second.
Yeah, we worked with Matt on it too.
Okay, did you say second?
Yep.
Roll, please.
Lamb,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
McKnight,
Yes.
Maxwell,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Watson.
Yes. All right, next up is parkland dedication. Allison, again.
All right. This is a continuation of the Codes development, which is out by Holland Park on the very far west end of Fayetteville, almost in Farmington. And they are proposing 38 single-family homes on about a little over 10 acres. Their land dedication requirement would be just under an acre, or the money in lieu is $34,960. However, this development has a bit of a history with the first phase that came through, which was called Walnut Crossing. And they dedicated 5 acres of land and constructed the park. And that was in an effort to meet future parkland requirements. So what they are requesting is to use part of their credit for their parkland requirements to meet meet the requirements of these 38 single-family homes.
And when was that? So it was banked, I guess, or?
Mm-hmm,
When-
yeah.
How long ago was that?
Man,
Well, it's.
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
December 1,
2008. So they actually, and that's a unique project, I think, because I don't know that we've had any other ones that actually built the park for us, gave us the land, or dedicated the land and built the park for us. They spent, I think it was around, the letter says, $171,000 on the park development. And so subsequent phases, the coast phase one came through and they deducted what, that requirement was from that total.
Which ideally, this is kind of what you like to see, is that right?
Yeah.
I mean,
This one has worked out really well.
It really has. It was very unique because one of our ex-park planners was the person that, did the building of it. So that was nice.
I make a motion to accept the staff recommendation of credit for construction of Holland Park.
I'll second.
Take a roll, please. Charlie?
Parson,
Yes.
Priest,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Maxwell,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
and Knight.
Yes.
All right, and the second parkland dedication, RV Hill Phase 2.
So this, again, is a continuation of a project south of Center Street, and Leslie Tabor is here representing the applicant for this project. They're proposing 55 multifamily homes on about 1.5 acres. Money in lieu requirement would be $30,800, or their land dedication would be 0.77 acres. The previous phase came through and the board recommended accepting money in lieu for that project. Staff is recommending money in lieu for this one as well, and that is what the developer is requesting. The blue hatch is what has already been through and approved, and then that black with the yellow is the second phase of it.
Approved and built.
What's that?
It's approved and built.
Where is it in the construction phase? Yeah.
But it's in
And on the Phase 2 site, what's there now? Has it already been demoed, or is it?
No, it's single-family homes. They're in varying stages of being under contract, so some of the tenants in those rental homes are moved out, and I think most of them are sitting vacant right now.
Y'all know when y'all plan to start on the project?
I think there's some items that are going to be worked out financially, but I'm thinking in the next year and a half or 2-year delivery date.
On both phases, or on just
Both
phase? Okay.
I recommend we take the money and the land.
Second.
At Knight,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Priest,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Maxwell.
Yes.
All right, last up, Village Park expansion.
We now have requested, the city's requested an appraisal on the Gully property, and this is necessary for an offer to be even considered or to be made. When, can you give some details in the appraisal? I know we've talked to,
Yeah, so, we put it out to bid, Reed and Associates received the bid. We will have it by July 18th, that was the soonest we could get it at noon. So, that's kind of where we're at right now. We will get an appraisal on each of the lots and then the land behind, the 9.75, so we can kind of decipher if we want to keep the lots or not keep the lots.
I talked with Mrs. Dunn about this, and the idea being if it gives us some maneuvering room as far as getting maybe she'd like to do the property all at once and all the pieces, and this would just maybe give us some room to maneuver if, to maybe make this thing happen. I mean, obviously, I think we're mainly interested in the 9 acres, a little over 9 acres, the field, that open space. There was an interview that I did with Max Mahler on KUAF. You can go to their website on 91.3 FM, and it's Ozarks at Large is the program. It aired July the 2nd, and about 31 minutes into that program is our interview, and it gives a lot of the history. And Christina, the girl that did I was very impressed. She really did a great job of tying the story together. And she actually got a call from her sister in Wisconsin, I believe, or Chicago, and said, "Hey, you ought to look at this." So, anyway, so I encourage people to listen to that. And there's also a link to the Friends of Gully Park website and also the Facebook site, so you can go and listen to that program. We have a open house, in open land plan for July 10th, this Thursday, in conjunction with the Gully Park concert from 7 to 9. And we'll have some refreshments and nibbles there we'll probably set a tent up on the corner of the the Dunn's property, right next to Gully Park. The field's been mowed, and there'll be a closely mowed pathway around the perimeter of the Dunn's property. It's 5/8 of a mile around it, and we're going to encourage people to come over to talk with the Dunns and also to walk the property, and just more of an opportunity to touch a few more people. A postcard did go out to 3,500 homes within a mile radius of Gully Park, talking about this open house on July the 10th. And the Dunns have received now 3 different offers from developers. They obviously they have a property that they would like to buy and move to, with a closing date of January 25th at this point in time. So it gives us some room to work there, but the appraisal is the first step, and the Kickstarter campaign is coming along. Last I checked, around $4,500 there. Not large, but and there's a few other avenues. As I was leaving the office this afternoon, I came across the Fayetteville High School class of 1979 fund that we put some money in many years ago for my class, and opened the envelope, and it's worth about $5,000. I go, oh, there we go. And so a few phone calls to some classmates. I think you were in that class. Were you? No, you were right behind me, right?
No, I was Ed.
You're 80?
77.
Okay, other way, all right. So, anyway, that's where we are. Obviously, looking for a larger benefactor that would really help make it easy for the city council to move on this. But, once again, ask you to encourage your aldermen, talk with them. Don't bug them, don't pester them, but they're getting a lot of comments, I think, from a lot of people. But hopefully we can keep spreading the interest on this. And love for everybody to come out and just talk to people there at Gully Park that evening, July the 10th. Encourage them to come over, walk the property, talk with the Dunns, and see how they feel as far as making an addition to the park.
I might state that we did make certain that the Dunns would hold off on accepting any other bid for us to have time to do the appraisal, and then have an opportunity to make an offer on the property. The last thing we wanted to do was to have an appraisal and it be sold.
Right.
So that they understand that it's going to take some time, and
to go through our city's process for us to see. And, you know, the appraisal is the next step. We need to see what the land is actually valued at, so we can make a good decision as to what is the worth of that property.
And she wants this to happen. They're being very patient, and I appreciate that very much.
Is there any opportunity to use the park improvement money from that quadrant?
It's
How much is in it?
The parkland dedication, there's very little money in that there's no development that's really happening in the Northeast Park District. So there is some, you know, we're looking at possibly changing our CIP a little bit, and we were going to we've added on the books for umpteen years to redo the trail and put new lights in. So we would be prolonging that project in order to purchase the project. And then, you know, the willings and dealings will be how many years, you know, if they set up to 5, you know, we would be looking at, so.
We've had some negotiations, and we're really, which is good. I think things are alive if we're having negotiations. Like Connie mentioned, it depends on the appraisal, and she's interested in the appraisal too, and we had some candid conversations about that, and I said, well, it'll be, you know, the appraisal will hopefully determine, you know, if we're in the right ballpark with the price, and I mean, that's the whole purpose of that. And I guess the appraisal could be challenged, but it should be, the whole purpose is to show the properties. It's going to be hard to show other like properties in that area because there's not been that much size like that, other than the piece that just sold east of Old Wire Road near Ash. And there's not been a whole lot that size in that area for a while.
How large a piece was that?
I don't know what she said.
We had
It was a little bit larger, probably.
Yeah, we just did they're now going to put 53, I think, cottages or homes on that.
Yeah.
The cottages is what it's called, it's that piece.
I feel sorry for the appraiser because you're not going to find comp for that.
And that's why we asked too to do the houses separate, because in that I mean, the houses are easy. The age of the houses and the land, those are easy. So that's something that would be pretty solid. The 9 acres, and almost 10 acres is and obviously floodway considerations. I don't know what part of that is in the floodway.
Plus it has a main sewer line.
Yeah, which is obviously
really matter
a large easement.
Developers.
Well, when I say he, this appraiser, y'all are engaging in appraisal.
We have engaged.
You have engaged in appraisal?
Yes.
Who is it?
Reed and Associates.
Reed.
We did a big
Is he going to appraise it for the value for our purposes, or is he appraising the potential value for the highest and best use of the property?
It's probably fair market value, but I can't.
Yeah.
He's appraising it so we can know what it's valued at. So I guess,
To the individual.
yeah. The end user is, I guess, the city.
Keep in mind, he is going to take into consideration too the zoning. I mean, it's zoned agriculture. Is my understanding.
Yeah.
Tax is agriculture
Yeah.
for the county. I know that. That's why they keep a donkey on it.
Oh.
Pay the taxes.
Well,
That's been the purpose.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is be prepared. Y'all know this, but, you know, he's going to have to make a determination on what an appraiser is going to call the highest and best use of the property, which may not be a park. And so the value you may get back may be more in line with what a developer.
I think that's evident by the price tag we're already looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's going to come back with something a whole lot higher.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about much lower. I mean, if he calls the highest and best use to be, you know, grazing land, it's going to be, you know, $2,500 an acre.
Yeah.
and obviously, we're not gonna take that to the Duns and say, here's a check, you know. for-
Yeah, they're
for
not
the
gonna,
value of the
yeah,
property.
sure. I think that it's gonna be in line with the other offers they're probably close to receiving, would be my guess. Because those developers have got like development costs, they've got to weigh how dense can we put housing on that. I mean, they're gonna be able to put more than 4 houses per acre on that piece of land, or 4 units per acre. There'd be a lot of backlash on that, I would think.
Are they in a position to disclose what those offers have been? So they're not sharing that information with us?
It's unethical for them to tell us, unless the family does with somebody else, but for us as a potential buyer, I've already asked.
Yeah,
Sounds like
they know what they want, and they know what they need, and so hopefully those two will come together. I'm hopeful that appraisal will answer a lot of our questions and give us something that our aldermen hopefully can hang their hat on, and we can move from that point.
Hey, I have a couple of questions. So, where's the money gonna come from if we do determine to buy this piece of property?
You want to answer that?
It'd have to come from our parks development, and if there's any parkland dedication. If there is, there's very, very little
It was
in
like
that
11,000,
closet.
I mean, it was tiny last time we
Yeah,
checked that.
there's not a lot in that. The mayor has pretty much said, you know, he does not want it to come from reserves, because we just took money for Mount Kessler and for this employee raises and something else, another project. So it would not be his recommendation, but, you know, it goes before city council.
So if we buy the property, we don't have the money to buy it with, to purchase it, then what are we gonna do with it?
I would assume we would take the money from the trail development and from the gazebo, for the, the pavilion and gully, and use that toward
Developing it.
Right, well, put that money toward the purchase.
To purchase it.
To purchase that, and then we would then, we would need to come out of the funds or rebudget to make the other payments. I think the family would agree to payments to be spread out. I think they comfortably would agree to another 3 years' worth of payments. And so then that would give us time to then pay that out of, pull that money out of Parks budget, or, and maybe that time to do, like I said, the grant writing's not in our favor on this, because we do have a lot of parking.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't work real favorable for us.
I could see us going on and possibly taking the fence down and brush hogging it, keeping it in, as a more of a natural.
I don't see
right
you spending a lot of
now.
money on it, other than
And
just getting it,
maybe a little
acquiring it.
mowing path around it.
Yeah.
So that people can get to it till we raise the money to.
The other thing too, if those 2 houses are sold, I mean, that takes a lot off that takes a lot of burden off of the city as far as the purchase, and we get really what we want, is the open land.
Mm-hmm.
Have they given, in their efforts to sell the property, have they divided up?
No, they don't want to, they're trying to keep it one piece, but that's why we have.
They haven't set a price
No,
on it,
it's-
some third party wants to buy these.
No, they have the pieces broken out in their offer, but that's why we asked the appraiser to go ahead and break those out, so it gives us maybe some leveraging chips, because we may say, the aldermen say that we're not gonna, we'll do this, we'll consider it, but not without the houses. And then at that point, then we, that way saying, or we decide to take maybe one of the houses and take the older house down to help provide a parking area. I mean, just trying to leave the options open. The idea of what the pieces are worth, and then we'll make a better decision that way.
We have had a request from the university to use it as an aging community park, since our community is becoming aged, it happens, and, for us to consider, to program it for things that the older generations might want to do. So parking is huge, I think, for the aging community, so that we would have close samples. So those things would have to be decided. It's kind of like Gully Park. You get the land, of some of the things that might work in it. We know we'll probably continue the trail, the length of the trail definitely, to hook it in, and park benches and all, but all the other things, we would have an open public meeting, just like we do in the development of any master plan, have the public to come and tell us those things they would like, and then we go to the drawing board. Allison and her team, they design a master plan. We bring it back to the public and Parks Board for your input and then eventually blessing, and then it would go to city council for adoption of that master plan for the park. So that's kind of the process that we would go through.
I think the intent's really kind of keep it, pretty much open, but the other thing too, on the parking issue, if those houses were not involved in this, we still have we've already been using the temporary parking right there off of O.R. Road, and that connects to this parkland. The corners connect. So it's, the parking is right there at the top of the Dunn's property. So that's not a, I guess I'm more willing to not even think about the houses if those could be pushed off it simplifies the thing for us. We don't have to remove houses, or it'd be nice to have the additional parking, but then we could focus on the area we have now. But
Well, I'll tell you the input I've been getting from the public, because I hang out on that side of town quite a bit. I just hang out with a lot of dog people, I guess, because everybody who talks to me wants a dog.
Every other person has a dog, yeah.
I know we have a dog park on the west side of town.
Yeah.
And there's people that drive from even farther east than Gully Park, all the way over there to use the dog park.
It's loved to death, too.
Excuse me?
It's loved to death.
Loved to death?
Yes, Imes Dog Park
Just
is
love it to death.
heavily used. It's hard to grow grass and...
I know that especially for this committee, we gotta think about, everybody in our community, but that's what I hear, that people want a dog park. So if part of that could be a dog park, that might open up, avenues to some additional funding,
How much does Imes pay to sponsor that dog park?
Oh,
Or do they just
they gave us
spend money?
30,000, yeah.
So I think 30.
And then we added...
Who's their biggest competitor?
Farina? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
It's hard to tell who
I hate to do that to somebody.
Could look it
but,
up,
That's
but-
how you get the most money.
Who knows?
I would think that prudent city councilmen who want to get reelected wouldn't want to have on their voting record voted against a dog park. I think that would be, I think that would be something that they would not be reelected if that was the vote, that was known by their opponent. So I think the dog park thing actually has
Done the dog
legs.
park,
to make it-
When you're talking about these same conversations about, we have this quantity of parkland, what's the quantity of dog park?
Well, we have Lake Wilson.
It's not proportionate to
our dog
quantity of-
population, yeah.
That's a
And-
good point.
I hear it every time somebody mentions Gully Park.
Well, Thursday night is Boom Kinetic concert, and we're having Bark at the Park night, so everybody's supposed to bring their dog, and...
Will be a dog park there, too.
Yeah, it will be a
And I
dog
would
park.
make also a recommendation, if we have a public input session,
Yes, we will.
let's please not do it on a Thursday night.
Okay,
That
but,
the Gully Park is gonna be having a concert.
oh, we would.
Would be a good idea, because that's why I would make it.
Oh, it would be good to have it in?
No, it would not.
Oh, okay.
Unless you, it
Unless
would be
you're
good
doing
if
it
you
out
did it
there.
at Gully Park
Yep, before.
prior to the concert, that'd be okay.
Council member that voted against the dog park.
But,
That's good input. Aging versus dogs.
well, I mean, I think
They
it's
can
the
vote- they
same
go
crowd,
hand in
isn't
hand.
it?
It's the same cry, exactly. I don't think they're pitted against one another.
And
And I don't know that you need a 10 or 11 acre dog park. I mean, it could be.
No.
How big's the dog?
Let me put it this way, the Duns are not in favor of a dog park.
Really?
How many acres?
Why is that?
Saying that-
They don't like dogs?
No, they have dogs,
Oh,
but they're not in, the idea of the park being pooped up, so to say. I mean,
Oh.
you just heard the comment that was made.
Yeah.
And that's
Love to do.
why, it's, we've had issues with people letting the dogs inside ball fields and just shut the gate. Problem is, they don't clean up behind their animals, so that was their concern. But the park is large enough, and I'm sure that we think, especially if that's added, we can find a acceptable spot to fence in an area. You could even go south of the creek and put it there, there's spots that something could be worked out.
Is the agreement from the Duns going to be contingent on use?
Well, if a lot of people definitely say, I want this whole thing to be a dog park,
They're going to make it a bunch of houses?
well, I mean, I'm expressing their desires, their concerns, and their wants. And, you know, that's,
Would they be terribly upset if a part of it was?
I don't think so. I mean, they're reasonable people. They realize that that's what where the demand is.
Do you know when we were looking for a site for a dog park, we had like 4 or 5 public meetings at different points throughout our city to determine where, and it kind of got to the point that everybody wanted Gully Park. And then when it got down to voting, that neighborhood did not want a dog park in their area.
And in
But
my
I
mind,
think things have changed
What-
since then. That
what was their-
How many years ago? 8,
Do we get
9
feedback on why?
8?
they're pretty nasty.
Noise,
They can
noise was
be.
a big concern.
Noise, I didn't think about that.
Barking.
Barking.
Noise.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was at that meeting.
Yeah.
It was noise and, the mess.
Yeah.
And Gully wasn't big enough.
How does Imes do?
What do you mean?
I'm
Like
asking, how does it do as far as,
maintenance or use or?
yeah,
It's-
well, we know it's heavily
definitely
used,
heavily
but
used, yeah.
is it well taken care of by the general public, by the patrons of the park?
I don't, there's plenty of, dog waste out there.
Some do, some don't. It's kind of like on the trail, you know, but I think
Some
that,
people flick their cigarette butts out and some people don't.
yeah, the more that people get out on the trail, I think the more patrol people we have out there, you know, that will go up to someone and go, please pick that up.
We do provide the bag and the trash cans. It's pretty,
But it's probably 50/50 or 60/40 or, don't know.
Get your poop meter out. I don't know.
Get my poop meter out next
I'm
door
not,
there.
I'm,
Except before rain or
Hey, we had an
after.
issue with running out of bags last year, right? 'Cause that's why we had to buy like 10 times more bags this year. Has it gotten better with more bags?
I haven't heard complaints,
I haven't either.
I would assume so.
Okay.
Pretty good benchmark.
So maybe there's more people picking up than we thought? They just ran out of bags?
I just think it's so heavily used.
Yeah.
The proportion, I don't know, it's hard to say, but they definitely go.
I think we're getting a little off topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is out of.
Depends on what size the dog and.
Yeah. Move on to announcements.
Okay. Announcements. July 1st to 11th, swimming lessons, session 2. July 4th through the 6th is adult softball tournament at Gary Hampton Fields. July 7th is summer adult kickball begins. July 7th through 11th is outdoor adventure camp. July 10th is Gully Park concert. That's Boom Kinetic, as we mentioned earlier. July 11th, Wilson Pool Dive-In movie is Frozen. July 12th, 3-on-3 live soccer tournament at Lewis Soccer Complex. July 14th through the 18th is drama camp. And we added one, July 14th is the Mount Kessler ribbon cutting ceremony, and it's at 5:30. And it's at the temporary parking at the new regional park. And we've got the July 15th is City Council Regional Park rezoning. July 15th through the 25th is swimming lessons session 3. July 21st through the 25th is Camp Wilson. What's Camp Wilson?
They just overtake Wilson Park, play tennis, kickball, they go to the pool, play in the playground, it's just kind of
Old fashioned.
free for all, yeah, the old school type of camp.
Okay, just mass hysteria.
Yep.
Okay. July 25th, Gully Park concert, and that's Sarah and the Meanies. July 28th through August 1st is outdoor adventure camp advanced session. July 29th through August 8th is swimming lessons session 4. And that's it. Entertain a motion
Motion to adjourn.
to adjourn. Second. Thank you.